Today on Unity Motorsports Garage, we're going to talk about Holley's oddest carburetor. But was it the best carburetor they ever made? Stick around. Before I dive into the oddest Holley carburetor, I think it's important to talk a little bit about Holley history and how things came about. The beloved 4150, it began life in 1957 for the Ford Thunderbird with the 312 cubic inch engine. Ford actually contacted Holley and developed this new 4150 carburetor. Now this was actually a vacuum secondary carburetor, but what it did is it created the lineage that we have today. And we'll go through that lineage. The 4160 began life in 1958. Now, it's up for debate as to who instigated the 4160. It's been quoted in a book, one of my favorite Holley carburetor books. I'll put a picture of it up here. The AMC was the driving force behind it. But in 1958, Ford FE engines, along with American Motors, used a 4160 carburetor for the first time. Fast forward into the middle 1970s. We know that the 4150 developed into the double pumper, and we know that the 4160 became the center squirter carburetors. Center squirters actually predated double pumpers by a year or so. By the middle 1970s, things were getting kind of odd. Quadrajets were a huge thing in the market, and so Holley developed the 4165, which is a double pumper version of a quadrajet style carburetor. The 4175 was actually a vacuum secondary version of the same carburetor, which makes me wonder why Holley did this, but they were trying to get into the Chevrolet market, GM market, which utilized spread bore carburetors, and that way they would have a direct replacement bolt-on. In 1980, Holley developed the Annular booster design. Now, they wasn't first to the market with this, as Autolite carburetors had been using annular boosters for quite a few years, but they decided to incorporate it in their product line. Well, Ford contacted Holley once again to develop a new carburetor for the 5.0, the 351 Windsor, and 460 engines. This carburetor would become known as the 4180, 4180C. I think it's the oddest and quite possibly the best factory carburetor that Holley ever produced. So this is my 1985 Mustang GT that I just scored, and you see that it looks like it has a Holley 4160 on here, but it looks different. You can see that it has the stamping numbers there on the air horn, like a traditional Holley, and this is different. Got an idle solenoid there, a dash pot. Let's go to the bench and take a look at another one. You know, if you've been watching this channel for any time at all, that I'm a sucker for odd carburetors. I'm just sick like that, okay? This here is a 4180 that I just scored off of eBay. I really should quit looking on there. But let's go through the designs. This older Holley Street Avenger is a 4150 design. Has dual entry bowls here, center hung with vacuum secondary. This is mimicking what a modern day carburetor would be for that 1957 Thunderbird. This is another oddball. Not only is this the 4175 spread bore deal there, you can see that it has the wider footprint on the secondaries, vacuum secondary. This is actually a marine carburetor that come off of Micah's Mercruiser boat, and I've got to rebuild it for him. Weird stuff. Non-adjustable floats. Pretty odd. But this here is a marvel of engineering, in my opinion, and here's the reason why. When I say that this carburetor is special, this is one of the signs that I knew that something was different. There are no stampings here on this air horn. And when we flip it around and look at the tag here, it has some engineering part numbers scratched on it. And after some investigating, I believe that this is a pre-production carburetor for 1985 that was used for emissions cafe standards type testing. I don't believe it was actually ever installed on a car. Now, many people back in the early 80s, when they seen this carburetor, they would automatically replace it with a traditional 4160 or 4150, thinking that this carburetor was junk. But in fact, this carburetor has some qualities that are very unique. This solenoid right here is meant to kick out and open the throttle just slightly when the air conditioning is engaged in the car. If you notice down here, there is actually a micro switch. As the throttle opens up and it goes to wide open throttle, it engages the micro switch and cuts off the AC compressor to keep from over revving it. So that's pretty explainable. Over here is known as what is called a dash pot. Now, people don't understand kind of what a dash pot is, but basically, when you're driving down the road and you snap the throttle close instantly, this slows the throttle down from coming to an abrupt stop. And what that does is it reduces emissions, because anytime that there's a instant snap of the throttle down, hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide spike. But now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of what makes this thing unique. So like I said, if you've watched my channel for any time at all, you know that I'm a carburetor freak. I've been fortunate to have done some really cool carburetor testing with David Vizard in researching booster designs and what works best for what application, because there's not one size fits all. A straight leg booster has its strengths and weaknesses, much like a down leg or step down leg or even an annular booster. As you progress through the series of boosters from straight leg to annular, the booster becomes more active, and you've got to be more careful about the intake manifold design that you actually install it on. When you install an annular booster carburetor on a heated intake design, you have really crisp throttle response. It's actually just as good, if not better, than fuel injection. The problem is efficiency. The fuel is atomized too well, and with the vaporization of the intake manifold being heated, you get a power loss. Not a good thing. But how do you fix that? The Ford and Holley engineers knew that this was going to be put on a heated intake design. They wanted 1, good emissions, 2, excellent drivability, but 3, they did not want to give up power at wide open throttle. How do you fix that? Simple. You notice this carburetor has annular boosters in the primary and traditional straight leg boosters in the back. Very unique. So like I said, this looks like a Holley 4160. You notice that there's no metering block on the secondaries there. Has a traditional metering plate like all other 4160s do, but when you look here at the metering block, there's something missing, and that's the idle mixture screws. And you may be saying, well, how does that work? Well, check this out. The idle mixture screws are actually located in the base plate of the carburetor, and they're tamper-proof. And it actually has on both primary and secondary, making this 4-corner idle, I do believe. And one of the most unique aspects of this is, look, it says manufactured by Holley for Motorcraft. So is it a Holley or is it a Motorcraft? I've heard people call it both things, and I guess they're both actually right. So let's bust this thing open and see the internal differences. So as you can see, this bowl is typical of any 4160 Holley carburetor bowl. I believe that this has been gone through at some point because it should have had brass floats in it, I'm assuming, by the year 1982 to 85, but I may be wrong. Traditional 30cc accelerator pump there, nothing special. I could put those on another 4160 and make this look just like a Motorcraft carburetor. Now here is where things get really weird. Notice the placement of the jets. They're angled. And this power valve here actually looks pretty weird. And it looks like they've been doing some welding or something there. And it's drilled. I don't know what all that's about. But another odd thing about the 80s Holley carburetors is the power valve. This is what's known as a two-stage power valve. Basically, when vacuum drops in the engine to a given level, the power valve will open slightly, and then as more throttle angle is presented, the vacuum will drop more, thereby opening the power valve the rest of the way. These were problematic, and Holley doesn't even manufacture these anymore. In fact, they can't even flow enough fuel for high performance applications. So when I rebuild this, it's just going to get a standard a single stage power valve. Now looking at the main body here, this is another thing that's unique to the late 70s, early 80s Holley carburetors. The accelerator pump circuit is brought into the metering block via this tube here, which is sealed off with O-rings that fit inside this cavity right here. They're prone to leakage and causing drivability problems because that fuel leaks down, gets into the main metering circuit, and the carburetor goes extremely rich. You cannot put a traditional 4160 metering block on this carburetor and expect it to work. It's not going to. The passages are drilled different. Things are just different about this carburetor. The secondary side is actually pretty conventional. You can see the traditional metering plate there, gasket with the metal reinforcement block behind the metering plate. And then, of course, you've got the traditional vacuum pod there. All in all, this is a really good carburetor, and I can't wait to do some dyno testing with it. I'm actually going to rebuild this unit to go on my 85 GT, and I'm going to take that carburetor off and most likely send it to All-State Carburetor. And we may do some trickery to it, make it look 100% original, but flow a lot more air. I don't know. We're still up in the air on that. Main thing is get this thing running for now. I hope you liked this little short video that I did on the 4180. I think it is the oddest of the Holley carburetors, and it was the swan song. Like I said in the beginning, we can thank the Ford Thunderbird for the carburetor that we all know and love today, the 4150. Well, 1985 was the final year that you would ever see a Holley carburetor installed on an American production car. It would continue on in the trucks with the 351 Windsor and 460 for a couple years, but as far as hot rods, this was the end of the analog era. So I hope you got something from that video. I've got to get over there and rebuild this carburetor. And the next video that you will see will be me trying to get this 1985 Mustang GT that's an 18,000 mile barn find up and running for the first time since 1992. So until next time, this is Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. I will catch you later.